Alright, today we have a video from Truth in Genesis that will apparently explain how we can see the stars that are billions of light years away, even though the universe is only 6,000 years old. Let's see what they got.
God wrote in the Ten Commandments that He created the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them in just 6 ordinary days. The genealogies in Genesis connect the lives of the early patriarchs straight back to Adam just thousands of years ago. So, how can we see the light from distant stars when it supposedly took billions of years for their light to travel to Earth?
Okay, so I'm not 100% sure, but maybe the Bible is not a science book, and it shouldn't be taken as scientific fact automatically. So, that might have something to do with it.
Does this disprove the clear timeline in the Bible and show the rest of it as just myth?
I'm gonna go with yes.
Actually, it doesn't. Stay with us to find out why.
It doesn't. Interesting.
You see, to measure the speed of light at any time in history, you need 6 things: light, space, distance, matter, time, and gravity.
No, you actually don't. The only thing you need to measure the speed of light is the ability to measure the speed of light. And the speed of light does not change. So, no, you don't need that.
From a biblical perspective, God, who is outside of time and space, created all of these things during Creation Week. None of them even existed before that. Think about it. They all had to come into existence together at the same time. Without space, how can you have distance? Without distance, how can you measure speed or motion? What would matter be like without gravitational forces? And gravity even affects time.
Okay, yes, gravity affects time, but before you say it, and I realize you're gonna say it anyways, that doesn't affect the speed of light.
Light travels through this space-time fabric, and all of these things were spoken into existence by God during the first few days of creation. These are all pieces of a puzzle that came together at the beginning. Light is visible electromagnetic radiation that travels 186,000 miles per second when it's in a complete vacuum. The speed of light when traveling through space is impacted by gravity, and time and gravity are inseparably related.
Okay, I was gonna try to explain what the speed of light really is, but I spent 30 minutes trying to write one sentence in my script, so here's PBS Spacetime to explain what it is.
C is the speed of light, but it's the speed of causality first. It's the maximum speed at which any two parts of the universe can talk to each other. In fact, it's the maximum speed at which any observers can see two parts of the universe talk to each other. Because of this, it's the only speed that any massless particle can travel. So light, or photons, also gravitational waves and gluons, all have no mass, and so they travel at the maximum possible speed. Mass is an impediment to motion. No mass, no impediment. So massless things go as fast as it's possible to go.
So, yeah, the speed of light is not just the speed of light. It is the speed of causality, which is way more important to the universe, and the universe would not be happy if it was faster, especially if it was faster by like 1,000,000 times. You'd have a serious problem then. Oh yeah, and link to the full video is in the iCard and in the description.
Gravity impacts the speed of light because it affects the energy of the fabric of space, which in turn affects the speed of light and time.
What you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Atomic clocks at different altitudes track time at different rates due to gravity. Even our GPS systems need to be calibrated for the effects that gravity has on time.
This is actually true. Satellites, especially GPS satellites that need to have very precise time, have to deal with the effects of time dilation. But the reason that time dilation happens is because the speed of light stays constant. Time slows down so that the speed of light is always the same, no matter how fast you're going. It'll always be 300 million meters per second relative to you.
Lastly, even motion itself affects time. When accelerating close to the speed of light, the weird distortions of Einstein's relativity kicks in. Time slows down, lengths go up, masses balloon, and everything we thought was fixed changes.
That's actually quite interesting, because a photon, from the perspective of the photon, experiences no time. It exists for a single instant.
So there we have it. Light, space, distance, matter, time, gravity, and motion. Just put them all together at a given time in history, put them into a formula, and presto. We think we can measure just how and when it all got started. Apparently looking back through millions of unseen years when the entire universe unfolded with this perfectly timed, perfectly bounded Earth spinning on its axis 1,000 miles per hour while orbiting the Sun at 67,000 miles per hour? Do any of us really know the complexities of light, space, distance, matter, time, gravity, and motion?
Yeah, I do know some people. They have this thing called a PhD that they spent an obscene amount of their life to get studying this. Again, you don't need those 6 things to figure out the speed of light. The speed of light is a constant. And what does it even mean that the Earth was perfectly timed? What are you even saying?
Can we change the relationships between these on a grand scale in our universe today? Do we know for certain that their relationships today are the same as they were thousands of years ago, 5,000 years ago? What about when they were created? God is not bound by the laws of nature as we are.
With the way the equations are set up, if something were to change, like the speed of light, the entire universe would stop working, and that would probably not be ideal. So, if you're going to say that it changes, then you're going to have to redesign the formulas so that they work while it's changing. Because currently, the way that the formulas work, if you have the speed of light, like 1,000,000 times more than it is right now, you're gonna have some problems, like matter not existing. It's not an ideal scenario.
This is important to realize when it comes to the creation week, when God, who is outside of space and time, created the stars, light, space, distance, matter, time, and gravity. Even the evolutionary model, the Big Bang, has a light time travel challenge called the Horizon Problem, as explained by astrophysicist Dr. Jason Lisle.
The Big Bang, the alternative to biblical creation, also has a similar type of problem, a light travel time problem of its own. It's called the Horizon Problem. And basically it has to do with the cosmic microwave background that we see streaming from the distant regions of the universe. We find that it's very uniform. And that shouldn't be, because in the Big Bang model, it should have different temperatures at different places. Why is it so uniform? Obviously, light energy had to travel from the hotter regions to the cooler regions to equilibrate those temperatures, but there hasn't been enough time. Even in 13.7 billion years, there's not enough time for light to travel from one side of the visible universe to the other. And so that's a light travel time problem for the Big Bang. It seems to me that if the alternative to biblical creation has the same type of problem as biblical creation, then you can't argue that distant starlight somehow disproves biblical creation in favor of the Big Bang. And after all, God is omniscient, and He could have used a mechanism that we do know about, or He could have used a mechanism that we don't know about. But it's not a problem for an infinite God to get light from distant galaxies to Earth in thousands of years.
Okay, your creationist cosmologist has no clue what he's talking about. There is a solution to this issue. It's called inflation, and the idea is when the universe starts expanding, it expands to around the size of a grapefruit, I think it was, and then it sits there for a minute, and then it super duper expands even further. And of course, saying that, oh, there hasn't been enough time for light to get across the universe, that's only partially true. The real issue is that the universe is currently expanding faster than the speed of light, because while things can't actually move at faster than the speed of light, space-time itself, sort of the grid lines, can, which means that if you are on one side of the observable universe, you send a laser, it will never reach the other side of the observable universe. It will never happen, because the universe is expanding, and as the light moves, it expands further. So, yeah, no, there is a solution to this.
It seems like God was anticipating the light time travel question when He asked Job to gird up his loins like a man and asked him, "Where is the way to the dwelling of light? And darkness, where is its place, that you may take it to its territory, that you may know the path to its home? Do you know it because you were born then, or because the number of your days is great?"
Okay, what does this possibly have anything to do with the issue of how did light get here from stars that are billions of light years away in 6,000 years? What does this have anything to do with that? Because it seems to me like this verse is implying that light and darkness are things that you can take and put places. Light and dark do not have places that they dwell. Light and darkness. I mean, darkness is just the absence of light. Yeah, this doesn't make much sense at all.
He even asked Job, "Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you set their dominion over the earth?" I think this applies today.
In what way does this apply today? The ordinances of the heavens? What? How does this relate in any way?
You see, we haven't always been here, and humans were certainly not here when these forces and laws had a beginning. We can measure how they interact in today's world, but don't you think they operated much, much differently when God put them here and shaped them during Creation Week?
Well, yeah, if Creation Week ever happened, yeah, they'd be working much differently back then. But since, for all that we know, that didn't happen, no. They didn't act differently in the past, because that would have serious implications for everything in the universe. Like I say multiple times, if the laws of nature were different, the universe would not exist and would not work at all. Well, that applies in the past as well.
Can we really be certain that they operate the same way today as they did in the distant past? The first verse of the Bible reflects time in the beginning. Energy, God created, space, the heavens, and matter, the earth, all coming together for the very first time.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth does not say anything about time, energy, space, and matter. In the beginning is saying that it's telling you when the story starts. Energy, where even is the energy? I don't even see energy in there. Space, heavens, no. Heavens in English means space, and I'm sure it meant that as well, but it means outer space, not space, as in the 3 dimensions of space. That's a separate thing that definitely was not implied in the original language. And the earth meaning matter, no, it means the earth. It means the earth, and heavens means outer space, with all those dots in the sky that can, fall onto the earth. Yeah, that. This does not mean time, energy, space, and matter. I thought I already debunked that.
We should be reminded by the psalmist, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, and all the host of them by the breath of his mouth. For he spoke, and it was done. He commanded, and it stood fast." How easily we forget that the natural laws at work today are not the same rules God used to create everything.
Well, duh. If God created everything, he sure didn't use the laws that we have today.
The Bible is clear. By faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the Word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. So here we are, spinning 1,000 miles per hour on this globe, traveling around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. And we think we can know with certainty the nature of light over millions of unseen years?
Well, it's actually billions. So, got that wrong.
God said something to the prophet Isaiah that sure seems to apply today. "For thus says the Lord, who created the heavens, who is God, who formed the earth and made it, who has established it, who did not create it in vain, who formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is no other." Physicist Dr. Russell Humphreys has developed a very practical and grounded theory that explains the light travel phenomena. First, a short background about Dr. Humphreys. In 1984, Dr. Humphreys developed a theory based on the biblical account, which says that God created the planets out of water just thousands, not millions of years ago. Dr. Humphreys' theory was able to make several testable predictions about the magnetic fields of Mercury, Mars, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Then, years after Dr. Humphreys made his predictions, NASA space probes reached these planets and took measurements of their magnetic fields. The results? It turns out that Dr. Humphreys' predictions were right on, and the expectations of NASA, based on the evolutionary dynamo theory, were drastically off. Even with a magnetic field being 100,000 times smaller than expected, Dr. Russell Humphreys explains the light travel phenomena.
The fourth day, the Earth was just above a timeless level, and I'll explain what a timeless level is in a moment. But so you see a cross-section of the trampoline here, and the vertical direction is gravitational energy, and the horizontal direction is distance away from the Earth. And you see a point at the distance away from Earth, which is billions of light years, drop down on the dotted line, and you see a little slice there that says that's a section of the waters above that are making the dent in the trampoline. So then you notice to the left of the waters above, it's mostly flat, except for a little tiny dent made by that green ball at the left, which is the Earth. That's right above a certain critical depth of gravitational energy where interesting things happen to time in Einstein's equations. So what happens to time is that below that critical level, there is no time. Time doesn't tick. You don't notice, you can't think, and there is no light, so it's dark. Here I'm going to begin to show you.
Okay, hold up. This diagram is not the same one that you showed before, because the other one, the waters above were billions of light years away. So, what you're saying is that the waters above were a sphere that was billions of light years in radius. Do you realize the absurdity of this? Okay? This is not in any way rational at all. I can't even describe how wrong this is. Alright, I did the calculation. For a sphere with a radius of 13.8 billion light years, and that is 1 molecule of water thick. That is 2 quintillion, 261 quadrillion, 179 trillion cubic kilometers of water. This is not a thing that is possible. Where did all that water go?
Why this effect is so important in cosmology. During the fourth day, God created the stars. Now, I'm going to suppose it's not necessary that God created the stars in a wave moving out from the earth on the fourth day of creation. So now let's go back to a cross-section of our trampoline. Instead of looking down on it, let's look at the cross-section again. And the point of this is that new star masses, the stars that God made, the new ones he made, dented the trampoline yet further. So there's a wave of new stars, and you notice the dent is now tilted down, and it's really deep near the Earth, and it's shallow, a little shallower at the waters above. Okay? Now we have a new scriptural effect to talk about, stretching out the heavens. God stretched the fabric of space. How do I know that? 17 verses that say things like this. God stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to dwell in. That's Isaiah 40:22. Imagine some big hands on our trampoline applying tension to the edges. So God stretched the fabric of space, and that would make the nearly flat region rise upward. So you can kind of imagine if you stretch the trampoline, you're going to apply more force to that ring that's sitting, making the dent, and it's going to pull it up. So here we are starting the action just after God has made the dent deeper with the stars, and now we're going to apply stretching and pull all of that up. So I want you to keep your eye on that vertical red arrow that's labeled event horizon.
Okay, everything that this guy is saying right now is bullshit. The event horizon has to do with the black hole. It has absolutely nothing to do with this timeless zone bullshit. By the way, I've never ever heard of any timeless zone except for this guy. When you have gravitational energy, what looks to be gravitational energy below zero at a certain point. Unless the zero should actually be on the bottom. But, like, What? Where are you getting this bullshit about timeless zone when you have a certain amount of gravitational energy? What? Where are you getting this?
Things to the left of the event horizon are going to have no clocks ticking. They're going to be in the timeless zone. Things to the right of the event horizon have normal time. So you're going to watch as we stretch the fabric. We're going to raise the dent above that dotted line, and we're raising things above the timeless level. And you'll see the event horizon move to the left. And so as it moves to the left, more and more of the galaxies pop out of the timeless zone and start emitting light again. You notice it moved inward all the way to the center. And the last thing that the event horizon hits is at distance 0, which is at the Earth. So the Earth is the last thing to actually come above the event horizon. Remember, God made the new stars in a wave, and we're going to see that a timeless zone followed the new wave of stars. And then as stretching started pulling the dent out of the timeless zone, you're going to see the timeless zone here shrinking. So the Earth was the first into the timeless zone and the last out of the timeless zone. Earth time stopped during the 4th day, and the 4th day was only 24 hours of time here. If you had been there on the Earth at that point, you would have experienced no time during that timeless moment. It would not even be an eye blink. You would be able to suddenly see all the stars all at once. So the age of the universe, when Adam saw it, was just 6 days EST, Earth Standard Time.
That is not even a little bit funny, you piece of shit.
So when someone asks you how old the universe is, you should ask, whose clocks are you talking about? The ones that God gave are here on Earth. He wanted Adam and Eve to be able to see our own Milky Way. Some parts of it are 50,000 light years away from us. And Andromeda, which is 2 million light years away from us. You can see it as a patch in the northern sky. He wanted Adam and Eve to see the full glory of his universe.
Okay, so, question. Does this mean that we could in some way move ourselves below the timeless zone, or some bullshit like that, and then we could use that to freeze Earth time? Like we could send our generation ship to another galaxy. We could freeze Earth time, and then when they get there, we'll unfreeze Earth time, and then we won't have aged, but they will have, so we won't have to wait, like, the millions of years, from our perspective, to actually get a ship there. Is that what you're telling us? Because that would be cool. I mean, it would be kind of retarded, but it'd be a little bit cool. But I'm pretty sure that's not what you're telling us. You're just telling us, oh, well, God did it and it's magic. That's basically what you're saying. Just, it's magic because God did it. Which is not an acceptable reason. It's not. I'm sorry, but it's not.
So I think you can see that there are answers to these questions from a biblical point of view. So I want you to be able to trust the Bible to be true.
Okay, I really despise this Russell Humphreys guy. I cannot describe to you how much I despise this man. Follow me on Minds, Twitter, and DeviantArt, though I don't do much on there. Links to those, and the link to the original video, as well as any other links that I mentioned, are in the description. I hope you enjoyed.